Good evening, everyone, and welcome. Day 551, August 28th, 2023, 9:01 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 4:01 a.m. in Ukraine. And to be quite honest, on this Monday, I'm shocked at how much information I have to share with you guys that has unfolded over the last 24 to 36 hours. Some of this stuff I'm going to share tonight is going to blow your socks off. So you want to make sure you hang around. I'm actually surprised myself. So you guys are jumping in here now. Thank you, Pat. Nice to see you. Carl L. Well, I love that. GE, good evening from Vegas, baby. Skaghead, other side of the world. Australia. You there somewhere? There you are. Chuck Pinkham, San Josie. Pray for that day when victory is won. Janet Smith, hello, PG and all. Slava Ukraine, yes, amen, claim victory. Lynn and Harold Fireball, or Lynn Fireball. Harold, baseball legend down there in Virginia. Welcome to you, sir. Linda Cassio, welcome to you. Ann Hockett, nice to see you. Hernan, my friend from Argentina. Welcome to you tonight. Nevada in the house. Andrea Shov, rocking the Ukrainian. Larry and Debbie Menninger, I see you sitting over there. Yes, Slava's working. We'll get your translation done. Jeffrey Burnett, thank you for your moderation, sir. Couldn't do it without you. Rick Berry, Slava Karina, Geroim Slava, I will see. Angie Kuhn, ready for the truth. And it's coming. So thank you guys for being here. Thank you for continuing to like, share, comment, subscribe, do all those things that assist us in getting the message out. We couldn't do it without you guys. And it's growing. Every day we stream on multiple platforms. And this is the place to chat in here, but people watching on other platforms as well, especially a lot of guys in Europe. So all of you Europeans, I thank you for all that you do. All right, here we go. Let's jump right in. We're going to start here. So it's 9 o'clock and we are quiet. So that's good news. We're going to stick with the quiet here at 9 o'clock. We'll see what happens as we go through the night. I'll get the little dings if anything changes. So you have seen the title of the program tonight, The Global War, live, Stand with Ukraine. But maybe you're wondering why I have all these guys' pictures on here. Because tonight we're going to talk about them all. And some of it's crazy. Of course, over there you see Erdogan and Putin shaking hands. And there's Solovyov between them. Wait till you hear what he said today. Of course, President Zelensky right there in the middle. You're going to hear from him, translated into English as well. And then you have Vivek Ramaswamy. I don't think I like that guy at all. Not personally. I don't know him. But some of the mess he's spewing, that guy may be smart and business oriented, but when it comes to global events, he doesn't know his head from a hole in the ground. And then tonight, we're going to close out with Pope Francis. You know, we've talked so much about the holy war, and I'm a firm believer that this is a holy war that we're going to see continue to unfold and unfold. I like that name right there, Slimy Vivek. It's really strange, some of the things this cat says, and we're going to look at it a little bit later. So I start with Putin and Erdogan. Remember, Putin was supposed to go to Turkey. They're going to meet and talk about the grain initiative and partnering together. And I showed you guys a couple of weeks ago that Turkey is not a supporter or a member of the ICC. So it is no problem for Vladimir Putin to travel to Turkey. But that's not happening now. So Putin will not be going to Turkey. Now the latest is early September, Erdogan will go to Russia. So that's where we're at. It's pretty interesting. You know what? Andrea Schoaf, look at you go. Okay, this is going to get good. All but Zelensky are anti-Ukraine. That is completely, I agree. And okay, here I put some Argentinian perspective tonight. As an Argentinian, that Pope is pure corruption. Well, you guys wait till you see what he says tonight. It's madness. Now, we've been watching Robitny. This is the place down south of Zaporizhia. I'll show it to you on the big map in just a minute. But this is the place where Ukraine is still having their biggest advancement. So remember, this is the area where the 82nd Brigade went in fresh and loaded, and we're seeing the best results right there. So we'll get to that on the map. If you guys do not know exactly where that is, I'll show you in just a moment. Now, coming out from MI6 today, that is the intelligence service there in Great Britain. Those guys are sharp. There's a few guys we follow for information in this war. 90% of our information comes directly from inside Ukraine. The other 10% of information that we process comes either from Israel, the IDF, or Great Britain, the MI6. You notice I didn't say any other European countries or even my own. That's the only places we look. So MI6 coming out and saying, we see Ukraine doing good on the south, where the blue lines are pushing, and that would be right back here at Robitny. But we're very concerned by what we're seeing in the east. That would be the red arrows over there. The northeast quadrant up by Kupiansk is very difficult. Russia is reinforcing. Also, Russia has made a couple of pushes actually outside of Bakhmut a little bit on the road to Ivanivsky. It took just a little bit. We'll look at the map. Additionally, you see Kryvyi Rih circled. That is the bottom circle. They were hit with injuries. Infrastructure was hit. Additionally, Poltava was hit last night, and I'll show you a picture of that in a moment and give you the updates on that. Now, if we jump to the front lines, we'll start up here. Outside of Kharkiv. I don't know if you guys are noticing this, but there is quite a line there on that border. And remember, this map I really trust is Institute for the Study of War. They do a really good job with analysis. Deep State does okay, but these guys, it's better. And I still use Deep State, but Kupiansk, the gold, the Russian movements, they are pushing. They're coming closer to the city of Kupiansk. And this is the city they want. Remember, we're on the northeast right now, zoomed into the front line. When you see the gold, that's their movements. When you see the blue, that is Ukrainian counters. Here at Bakhmut, of course, Ukraine holding the south and the northern highlands, but we've got a little push directly out of Bakhmut here, pushing in toward Ivanivsky, and this is the one I'm actually concerned about. They're getting control here, but we'll see. Ukraine has a good position to defend against that. Coming down the rest of the map, nothing has really changed until we come all the way down to Robitny. And here you can see that Ukraine has broken through that first line of defense there. And today they confirmed they've taken the whole village of Robitny. So this is good. My only concern here is you have to remember Soviet warfare. And this is exactly what the Soviet Union did to Germany. I am confident Zelensky and even the advice he's getting from nations like the United States are well aware of this. They don't need me to tell them, but this is typical Soviet strategy where they'll suck you into the front line and then they just bash you. And I can tell you that the airstrikes have increased on Ukrainian positions here in Robitny and shelling. So I'm hoping that's not the case, but Ukraine getting pretty deep in here, and that's good if we can widen that out and not be really surrounded. So we'll see. It's good, and it's the best piece of news we got. So that's the analysis coming in from MI6. Now, I told you Poltava, and for those of you that do not know where Poltava is, it's a city we do not discuss too often, but here is Ukraine, Kyiv here in the center, front lines all through here. Poltava is actually right here. We go through Poltava all the time when we're traveling into Kharkiv, into the northeast fronts. Poltava, beautiful city there, central Ukraine, agricultural, industrial, and what was hit was actually an oil refinery. It was hit with Iskanders. 4 were killed, 5 wounded, and 2 are still missing. So that's the situation there. Actually, that's the real picture. If you look, you can even see the oil tankers there where they will fill them. So that's an infrastructure hit, and those are the things that they're tough. They hurt. Boyko Towers. So if you look at the map there on the lower side, these things are actually becoming battlefields. You may say, well, where is that? That's out in the Black Sea, the little map on the left. But if you look here, it's basically this strip of water between Crimea and Odessa and Crimea and Snake Island. That little pocket right there, right when I zoom into here, it's in this area right there. This is becoming pretty major battlefield. Russia and Ukraine fighting for these oil rigs. They're oil and gas rigs, and they're massive monstrosities. They're called Boyko Towers. They have helicopter landing pads. They have places for provisions. They can launch drones. And in addition to that, it's the access to the natural resources for the oil and or gas. So these are Ukrainian. People are wondering, okay, whose oil rigs are those? They're Ukrainian. But in 2014, they were taken by Russia when Crimea was stolen / given away / sold. You say, well, I thought they just took it. They did, but the naval base was sold for rights to Russia. They had been given, correct, president gave them 25-year lease on the naval bases in Crimea. That's where it all started. So, thank you, Ricochet. Frontline Ukrainian soldiers are not there to hold territory, but to punch through and move forward. Troops behind will set up and hold. Beautiful. Thank you, sir. Taken equals stolen. So, yes, they were stolen. Cinnamon, thank you. Welcome from Alberta, Canada. Yeah. So these are called Boyko Towers. And the reason they're called Boyko Towers is because the politicians who were arranging and building these platforms decades ago were corrupt, and all this money was wasted and lost. So they named them after one of the politicians. So that's why they are called Boyko Towers. You know, we tell it very clearly. And in fact, tonight I'm going to give you an update on more corruption that is being cleaned out. So we just tell it how it is. Yes, those come and are named. It was through corruption, but it's being cleaned out, and we're watching it every day happen. So that's the Boyko Towers there. Reznikov, the guy right there. So this gentleman is the defense minister. He's also the best friend of the former senator that I've now met from Odessa and become friends with, Pavel Ungurian. And he and Reznikov are best friends. These are reasons why I know Reznikov's a good man. And Reznikov coming out today and confirming what we have been sharing with you. This is from the defense minister. The earliest it is possible for F-16s to be in the air in Ukraine is spring 2024, direct from Reznikov today. In fact, Romania is one of the groups or nations assigned to train F-16 pilots. So I know that some may be trained in Arizona, is what I've heard. Others are being trained in other nations, but Romania is one of the nations where they're supposed to be trained. They're having language issues, but Romania has not been able to start training yet. They came out today and said, we can't start training because we haven't received the proper paperwork from NATO. So it's what we know, folks. And I think it's 2 or 3 of you in here in the chat a week or so ago. We're talking about, it might have been Mark McLaren across the pond, that it's one thing to say F-16's coming, we're flying them in the airspace, we're going to start training, but this is a major deal, and language is major deal, and then training, equipment, resources, repair, the whole 9 yards. I mean, it's not simple, and every day we see just a little delay. So Reznikov coming out and saying spring 2024. Buryatia. You guys ever heard of Buryatia? Probably not. It's probably not on one of the highlight vacation destinations. It's near Irkutsk. It's in Russia. You may say, well, why are you showing Buryatia but a map of Zaporizhia highlighted in red for Tokmak and Melitopol? Because Russia has relocated 1,500 Buryatian, which is a Russian province, Buryatian security services, because they're going to use them in the resettlement of Ukrainians that Russia had moved out of Tokmak and moved out of Melitopol. They're now pushing those Ukrainians back in to their homes in Tokmak, into Melitopol. They're going to have fake elections, and they are bringing in this Buryatian security services to free up their soldiers, to free up others to be in the war, so that these guys will be running security. Where is Buryatia? Way over there. So these guys, yes, look Asian and kind of Mongolian. In the red is Buryatia. This is what we try to share with folks and tell you guys. You have not yet seen conscription from Western Ukraine, from Western Russia. You haven't seen it, and it will be different. But these guys are from Buryatia. I guarantee you they could care less about Ukraine, but they have been rotated out. Over on the left, I have Ukraine roughly outlined there in the blue. How far away is that? 5,000 kilometers, 3,200 miles. So that's what's happening. Those guys being rotated in to run security here in Tokmak and Melitopol. Additionally, Gagauzia. Say, what in the heck? Where are you getting these names? Well, I don't know. It's just what's happening, but there are definitely some interesting names. So we're dealing with Buryatia, and now we're going to deal with Gagauzia. Gagauzia is a southern region in Moldova that over the last 24 hours have been filing their paperwork, doing their public announcements that they will be going independent, partnering with Russia, just like their brother, the Transnistria region. Moldova is becoming fragmented. I'm telling you right now, this is all the work of the Kremlin. All the work of the Kremlin. So we would have our second breakaway republic in Moldova. Of course, it's just going to be right there. The yellow is Ukraine. The pink is Moldova. The top red is Transnistria. And the bottom red is Gagauzia. Say, well, I've never even heard of that place. Yeah, it's right here. It's real. Let's go here. So you can see a little bigger image here. Ukraine here. Transnistria runs this whole, let me get out those roads, eastern border against Ukraine. And then Gagauzia is down here. It's a real region. So we shall see what happens about that. But I can tell you that President Zelensky himself made a statement about Moldova today. And I'll share that with you in a moment. Estonia. Will the regions involved ever give up on Cyrillic? What's up, Steve Olsgaard, Marysville, California? Cinnamon, appreciate those kind comments. So, you have to give me some more information there. Will the regions involved ever give up on Cyrillic? So, are you asking me if they're going to give up on the Cyrillic alphabet? So, that's the question I have back for you. Because if that's the question, that answer is easy. Estonian Prime Minister Kaja Kallas, a bulldog, a pro-Ukrainian supporter from the get-go, a speech-making prime minister. She'll make you stand up and cheer. She has been a major ally, supporter, bulldog, leading Estonia to stand against the war in Ukraine, stand against Russia. That's her husband right there. He owns a business that, until yesterday, still doing all their business with Russia. The company continues to do business with Russia. He left it. We are on day 551. You're going to tell me that Prime Minister Kaja Kallas did not know that her husband is in major business with Russia. This is the stuff that we try to tell you guys. Russia's a really big place. Just here to tell you. So you may go, okay, well, where is Narva? Where's Narva? Let's go here. The other thing I'll teach you tonight, Narva, although it's in Estonia, very, very Russian city, mostly Russian speakers, right on the border. It's a border. I get ready to speak Russian. Granica. Oh, this is good. All right, let's see. Let's see here. I'm going to show you Narva in just a second, but let me get to this. So, yes, the alphabet. Let me go to this for a second. Then we'll come back to Narva because I want you guys to see Narva. Yes, the alphabet. So the answer to that is no. And Samantha EQ, I agree with you 100%. Nothing wrong with Cyrillic. Just learn it. Yes. So, no, Cyrillic will never go away. The Ukrainian language is with the Cyrillic alphabet. Russian. So, no, it's not going anywhere. And actually, I'm dabbling in Ukrainian, but I'm a Russian speaker, and it's very difficult language. But Cyrillic alphabet, kind of once you get it, it's not that difficult. So, no, that's not going anywhere. Let's see here. Pastor friends in Moldova, they're in Kishinev. They're great. So Larry and Debbie are heading to Estonia in a week. And maybe we'll get opinions about Kaya next week when we're in Estonia. See, we just reach out everywhere. So maybe you get the opinions and I'll have you call into the show and we'll talk about it. He tried to explain it away as no longer doing business with Russia. Yeah, it's really a goofy night, to be quite honest with you. It's still quiet, but the things that are happening around the war in Ukraine, that's why the title of the program tonight was dealing with the global war, because it's obvious. I mean, this is happening. So back to Narva. Here's Estonia. Beautiful place. I love Estonia. Been there many, many times. And the capital here in Tallinn. But if you come all the way over to the east, and I say all the way, it's just a couple hour drive. Beautiful. You come to Narva. I'm going to zoom in on Narva for you guys. And this is the Narva River. The border is right here. Right there. That's it. So this side is Estonia. This side is Russia. And the majority of this city it's just described as very Russian. And that's not in years past, that's not a degrading statement. It's just the culture, the language. It's not an Estonian city. It's very, very, very Russian. But you can see this is the gateway of the business flow into Ivangorod, which is city of Ivan. Now, let me zoom out a little bit. The other thing I want you to pay attention to here is Narva. Once you cross out, you're nowhere from St. Petersburg. So Narva here, St. Pete here, all up along the Baltic there. So that's Narva, and really, really interesting news coming out there on Kaja Kallas and her husband. We'll see what unfolds from it. Maybe Larry and Debbie chat with some Estonians there, or I'll get an Estonian on with them. That would be good. Get me an Estonian, Larry and Debbie, when you're in Tallinn, and we'll bring them on here live and they can talk about it. That'd be cool. Update on Prigozhin. He gone. DNA now confirmed, which they already knew. We knew. There was actually a video that I didn't show that was most likely him. I mean, they found him, his body, but it's now DNA confirmed and identified. Prigozhin on the left, Utkin on the right. They are gone. And here's what's interesting. Do you remember on Friday night, Zhenya was telling us that Russia will now erase it. They'll erase Wagner everywhere. And it's going to come to pass. I know 10,000 Wagnerians are supposed to be staying in Belarus for logistical reasons, and Lukashenko will be their caretaker. I know that Wagner is still doing operations in Syria and Africa, but we'll see. Russia itself is going to erase Wagner. So here is another graveyard. What Zhenya was sharing the other night, check this one out. This is in Irkutsk. Where's Irkutsk? Right beside Buryatia. 5,000 kilometers from the war, 3,200 miles. They burned out a Wagner graveyard from the war. So this says Cemetery of Wagner in Irkutsk. That's what the Russian says there. They just burned it out. Who burned it out? The locals burned it out. So something very strange there. So if Wagner goes on, who is next in line from the Wagner or Wagner to be in charge? It's this guy right here, Anton Elizarov. We shall see what is up with all the drama with the Wagner cemeteries. They want to erase it. What is up with it? This is up with it right here.
А вы умеете прощать?
Are you able to forgive? Yeah.
Но не все.
But not everything.
А что невозможно простить?
Предательство.
What can't you? Betrayal. I mean, that's what it is. They're going to erase it however they can. And they're just erasing these cemeteries as if They didn't even exist. So we'll see. Easy to remove a single monument covered with cement. Yeah. Let's see. We will see if Peter can talk with you. You know what? That would be good. Let's have an Estonian on here. Peter would be perfect. So we'll make that happen over the next few weeks. That's for sure. Let's go. Let's go here. One of the other pictures I had in the thumbnail tonight is Solovyov. Why did I bring Solovyov? Because I want you to see what he said on his program tonight. That would have been a few hours ago. What did he say? He was talking about Prigozhin, Wagner, and NATO. And you say, well, Greg, we don't need to listen to Solovyov. Okay, let me reiterate. 140 million Russians listen to Solovyov every day. Millions of Europeans listen to Solovyov every day. It is broadcast, blasted everywhere. So if you really want to learn about the culture and insight into why thinking is the way it is, you have to go to a couple of these guys, whether it's Solovyov, Margarita Semyon, Peskov. It would be no different than studying World War II history and listening to Joseph Goebbels. No difference. It's the same job. So here's Solovyov tonight. Let me roll this one in here for you. 1 second. Solovyov is right there. It's too many buttons over here. Here we go. Solovyov. We must be clear with our understanding. Today, there's some uncertainty that's swirling around the airplane crash, which killed the leadership of the Wagner PMC. Now, the experts in the investigative committee confirmed the results. All those listed on the manifest were among the dead. And in Ukraine, there's now a crazy rejoicing. I mean, they're out of control. They are rejoicing and showing who ordered the murder. We'll wait, of course, for the official results, but it's most likely a terrorist attack, I think. Most likely explosives were hidden during the repair. It happened in Moscow because no one can control what kind of spare parts are put in the plane. So this means that NATO was involved. It's obvious. First of all, NATO is hindered by Wagner and its NATO interest in Africa. So that is Solovyov giving his spiel. A bomb on the plane, and NATO did it. And here's the problem. Millions and millions will absorb that as truth because it will be plastered every day from here forward. NATO did it. If you want to know what the Kremlin's viewpoint is on the Prigozhin plane crash, you just heard it. Because he's not spewing that level stuff if he knows that's not what the Kremlin's viewpoint is. Yeah, it was terrorism, it was Ukraine, and it was NATO. That's who brought down Prigozhin's plane. That's the truth, folks, and that's why we look at it like that. Now, let's come down to Kherson. Yeah, this one's interesting here. Let's do this. So, if I go here first, this is going to blow you guys away. I told you this is a very interesting day. Here we have the city of Kherson across the river, and pretty much all of the Kherson Oblast or region is way down here in the red, occupied. The Kherson Oblast or region itself basically takes in Kherson city and just a little bit of the surrounding territory. All of this territory up here is actually all Mykolaiv region or Mykolaiv Oblast. So Kherson is getting ready to have an election on September the 13th. Okay? And I want you to see this, guys. Remember this guy's picture, Saldo? I showed you a video Friday night with Saldo speaking with Putin in the Kremlin. Remember, Jane, you brought that thought in? Well, you know what? I don't see them in the same frame, but you could see the conversation going on. Saldo reporting that the Novokakhovka Dam had been blown up by the Ukrainians, but the Russians were down there fixing everything, repairing, getting gas and electricity and everything restored. Remember that? Well, they're going to have an election on September 13 to elect him again as the regional governor. Of course, it's already done. It's a joke. You may be asking, you got any idea what that billboard says? Yeah, I do. This is going to blow you guys away. This is going to blow you guys away. Hello, Greg from Elizabeth City, North Carolina. Late but here. Nice to see you, Eric. Yep, agreed. This information, number one, toolbox, or tool in Russia's toolbox. Anyone who knows anything about Putin's KGB style of operation should know beyond a doubt that the investigation crash was completed prior to the terrorist attack. Absolutely. In fact, I mean, the preliminary data was done in 6 hours. That's easy. Samantha EQ. Everyone's a Satanist to them. Okay, Samantha. You know Cyrillic. Good. Good. Let's see here. This statement right here says, homosexuality, that's the first word. Homosexualism. And then the big word that starts with a C and then an A. It's actually an S in our sound. So I'll teach you this real quick. C-A-T-A-H. C is an S, A is an A, T is a T, A is an A, H is an N. Satan. Satanism. So homosexualism, Satanism is a threat in the black text to our society. And then his name, Vladimir Saldo, and Yesli Protiv. If you are against this, it then says vote for a unified Russia. Those are the billboards. Remember? Holy war. Been saying it from week 1. And it's not going to end. But this is what's happening down in Kherson. Election day. Unfortunately, this has really gotten out of hand a little bit. Lindsey Graham coming to Kyiv, talking to Zelensky about make sure you have elections. And it was good advice. I like Lindsey Graham. He's a good man. But he says, make sure you have elections. I'm advising you. And Lindsey Graham's been to Ukraine many times. He's a good guy. But he's advising Zelensky, make sure you do the elections, because if you don't, you're going to be considered basically a dictator. So make sure. So the 23 elections, of course, cannot happen because the active war and also because they are under martial law. So Zelensky replied today to Lindsey Graham and to the world about the process of doing elections. He's not against it, but they're in the middle of a war. So I have that for you guys, and I'll play it for you translated. This is Zelensky talking in response to the election talk that's been going on after Lindsey Graham's visit. Here it is. If our parliamentarians are ready for this task, yeah. Why is this difficult? Because we need to amend the legislation to the electoral code and do it quickly. That's the first thing. And I said to him, Lindsey Graham, are you ready to help me financially? because I'm not a person who deals with paving stones, and I can't just move $5 billion from the Ukrainian budget. And that's historically the amount needed to hold elections in normal times. And in military terms, I don't know what this amount is. So I told him, if the U.S. and Europe can't stand with us for this, I'm sorry. I'm not wanting to ask for anything else. I will not hold elections on credit or take a loan. I will not take money that has been given for weapons and move it to elections either. Not possible. We should have observers be in the frontline trenches. I told him that we must send observers to the front line and those villages and towns to make the elections legitimate for ourselves and the whole world. That is the way out, and I'm ready for it. I'm talking about this publicly. I told him I have no secrets. None. That's it. For me, that's a fantastic response. You know, it's one thing to say, let's come in and have the elections, be a free nation, and, you know, do what you say you want to do. I completely agree with that. But they're in a war, and they're cleaning up their nation, and Zelensky's doing a great job. And he said, I'm not against it. We can have it, but it's not simple. We've got an entire front line of a war, and are we going to put observers in the trenches? How will we control that? And you talking about a mess. If you had an election right now and all those frontline cities and towns, I'm telling you, it would be a mess. So we'll see. But that was Zelensky's response, and straight in English, I think it's very good. Additionally, he made some other statements in this interview. And this is, everybody's seen this in Ukraine. See, the problem is he's speaking Ukrainian, and that's not the problem. Let me restate that. The problem is Ukraine does not do a good job translating the Ukrainian to English. That's the problem. Russia, on the other hand, translates their stuff like crazy and pushes it around the world. And Ukraine is losing this media war. But we do our part, and others do as well, to try and help. So Zelensky talks about, with the interview that was on public television in Ukraine, how can observers be in the trenches? Great point on the possibility of holding elections during the war. He said, we are under martial law. We're dealing with corruption, and corruption is equated as treason. Thirdly, he said, the deoccupation of Crimea can be politically pressed because in this way we will have fewer victims after we secure our mainland, which would be Lugansk, Donetsk, Zaporizhia region, and Kherson region. So the talk is, if we can take that mainland, then maybe we can push it politically to get Crimea back. He says, if the war moves to the territory of Russia, it is a big risk that we will be left alone. That's his fourth statement I'm pulling out. That one is a little interesting, to be quite honest, because he's correct. If I'm assuming he means boots on the ground, because Ukraine is tearing up some Russian bases and doing drone work throughout Russia. So I'm assuming he's talking invasion. I don't know. I'll tell you what, if those drones keep going the way they're doing, they're going to do a lot more damage. And not only that, the saboteurs that are working and guys that are behind the lines there in Russia. I remind you guys, a lot of these Ukrainian soldiers, they speak perfect Russian. Their families are in Russia. Some of them are Russian descent. They can blend in, but equally, Russians, especially in the East, can blend in as well on the Ukrainian side. It's why the war is so crazy. To give you understanding of that, when Zhenya and I go through checkpoints, especially when you're getting close to the front, you have to be very careful We've come to the point now where we run the military passwords because you can never be sure. And of course, Zhenya only speaking Ukrainian with them. But you do have a lot of soldiers that only speak Russian. So when they would reply or speak in Russian, we would pay attention. It's not a problem speaking to them, and it helped me out because I could talk to them. But you're always paying attention. So whatever Zelensky means there, if it moves to Russia, I'm assuming that means ground. He said, fifthly, an invitation to NATO is not there yet, and it will be the final decision of the world. 6, Ukrainian victory will provide the opportunity to return. Remember, I told you Zelensky was going to say something about Moldova. Here it is. Ukrainian victory will provide the opportunity to return democracy and integrity to Belarus, Georgia, and Moldova. So he says, we're fighting for these other nations. And then finally, I would like the victory to prevent the return of war, meaning let's finish this once and for all and not have our children, our grandchildren fighting this war again. It is necessary for the people to remain united. Boy, I love the Canadians. Sylvie Pepos or Pepos? Pepos. Sylvie Pepos. Welcome from up there in Canada. Changing leaders in a wartime isn't usually a good idea anyway. I would agree with that, unless they're bad. He's sending a good faith message of willingness, but everyone knows how impractical it would be. Same comment exactly. It would be bad. It would be not good. We'll see. Now, Vinica. You guys know we tell you the truth about corruption. So this one's ugly, guys. But they got them. So where is Vinica? Let's go to this map here. Kyiv, here in the center. Come down to the name Ukraine. Go one region left. That's Vinica. This is the bordering region to our home city of Khmelnytsky. And anytime we go south to Kherson, we go directly through Vinica. In fact, we get gas at a gas station right there in Vinica, and then we go south. But Vinica, beautiful city, very nice. They busted these guys on corruption. So what happened? A group of 10 local doctors in Vinica were selling medical exemptions for draft dodgers. So Ukrainians that did not want to go to war, do not want to be mobilized, would go to these doctors, and the doctors were writing their orders that they were unfit for battle. They were charging these draft dodgers between 3,000 and 10,000 euros. And they had done this for over 200 guys before they were caught. Now, all 10 doctors have been caught, licenses taken, prosecution will come, and they face up to 12 years in prison for treason. What else can we say, folks? We're telling you it's not easy to clean up the corruption, but it's happening. Now, here's something really funny. The entire leadership of the anti-corruption system of Ukraine right now today is in Washington, D.C. They're visiting. And it tells who the members of the delegation are. Semyon Krivonos, 2 deputies, head of Vox, Vera Mikalenko. Okay, that's who's there. But yeah, they're terminated, Jeffrey. The doctors are gone, but they got them. But, okay, is this a paradox? I mean, remember, we do not get political here, although I'm going to rip Vivek Ramaswamy here in a second. But The entire leadership of the anti-corruption system of Ukraine is visiting Washington, D.C.
Слава Україні!
Listen, if you, and I love my country, folks. You see over there, I've got my flag. I love Ronald Reagan. That's the era I grew up in. I got my eagle with the flag. I mean, I bleed red, white, and blue, but I'm not sure I would take people to learn how to deal with anti-corruption to Washington, D.C. I think I'd find a different place to go. I don't know, but I thought it was kind of humorous. Now, something else that's really good, BRICS. We've been talking about them. So the embassy in South Africa, and today this was the image blowing up on Ukrainian social media. People were loving it. They were laughing and it brought them joy. So on the left is the tweet, Russia in South Africa, the embassy of Russia. And then they made the post, reality of a new multipolar world, #BRICS. And then they colored in the nations in BRICS in green. And you can see there a complete east-west division. But on the right side, zoom into Ukraine. They actually had, and it says BRICS 2024. They have Ukraine completely all white, including Crimea. That's pretty good right there. So, Ukrainians were loving this today because they said, thank you, Russia. You got it right. In 2024, we'll have all of our Ukraine back and Crimea. So Ukrainians were enjoying that today. I try to give you stuff that they're talking about. And this was the thing rolling today in Ukraine. Now let's go here. Vivek Ramaswamy. I don't want to give any personal comments on this guy, and I do not go into American politics here unless something's just super ignorant. And that could be Republican, Democrat, Independent, Green Party. I don't care which party. We'll call it how it is. But this guy, he may have made billions in business and have a brilliant mind and a good tennis player. He's clueless on foreign policy. This guy doesn't know his head from a hole in the ground once you get over into Europe. What a clueless individual. Vivek Ramaswamy stating openly and publicly in voice and written word that if elected, he would recognize Russia's control over the occupied territories of Ukraine, meaning if I become president, Russia gets Lugansk, Donetsk, Zaporizhia, Kherson, and Crimea. In addition, he promises to lift sanctions, return Russia to the global market, and block Ukraine's candidacy for NATO in exchange for Russia withdrawing from the military alliance with China. Okay, this dude right here, you know what, folks? You need to listen to me. You may say, could this guy ever get elected? Well, first of all, we're a long ways from the election. This is only Republican primary stuff. He could get elected. I doubt it. I doubt it'll happen, but could he? Absolutely. We're in a crazy situation in our country right now. And you guys get it. He's scary. He's dangerous. Definitely ignorant. Yeah, and I'm trying to be kind. Yeah, he wants to return to Munich Agreement 1939. Exactly. And I'm just sorry that his perception is so wrong. And listen, I'm I left this video in here on purpose. Maybe you were not here the other night. And if you were, you get to hear it again because these statements are fantastic. I think I left it here. Yeah. And listen, I'm not pushing a candidate. This is not about America. We're supporting Ukraine. But Mr. Pence,
anybody that thinks that we can't solve the problems here in the United States and be the leader of the free world has a pretty small view of the greatest nation on earth.
That is incorrect.
We can do both, Vivek. We've done both. We've been the leader of the free world and the arsenal of democracy for years. The Reagan Doctrine years ago made it clear. We said, if you're willing to fight the communists on your soil, we'll give you the means to fight them there so our troops don't have to fight them. Vivek, if we do the giveaway that you want to give to Putin to give him his land, it's not going to be too long before he rolls across a NATO border, and frankly, our men and women of our armed forces are going to have to go and fight him. I want to let the Ukrainians fight and drive Putin and the Russians back out into Russia.
I want to just briefly address Pence. Vice President Pence. I have a newsflash. The USSR does not exist anymore. It fell back in 1990.
Did I say
the real
USSR?
threat? You talked about the communists, and the real communists that we have to address right now.
Do you not have any idea what Vladimir Putin's aims are?
You already spoke. Now I actually have something to say.
Vladimir Putin has been saying he wants to reestablish the old Soviet sphere
You've made
of
your point,
influence.
Vice President.
Now, if you think I'm sorry if I insulted him by calling him a communist. He is a dictator and a murderer, and the United States of America needs to stand against authoritarianism.
Right.
Mr. Ramaswamy, 30 seconds.
Respond.
So there you have it. We'll just let Pence answer again. It's sad, but I'm telling you, we need to pay attention to this stuff because it's not just Ramaswamy. Nikki Haley came out and she was supportive. Thankful for that. Mike Pence, supportive. Do I know where Trump stands, but he's not stated it publicly here in the last week or so, so I'll leave that alone. But he's pretty much convinced he can end the war in 24 hours. And of course, that would be by giving land away. It's easy. And he's the one that CPAC's inviting Orban to Texas and whatever. But we just got a mess. And as we go further and the pressure intensifies in the United States, and let's say the counteroffensive goes a little slow and we get into winter and the war's dragging on, anything could happen, folks. So we'll see. We've got an educated person in here. Samantha EQ, Putin's an imperialist. Heroes Peter the Great. That's correct. About 3-4 months ago, I showed the tour from Zarubin of Putin's office, and hanging in his office is his picture of Peter the Great. So, folks, I told you this is a strange day. We hear all the time, Pope Francis, of course, doesn't want war and, stands for freedom and integrity of nations. And he was speaking by video conference in St. Petersburg a couple days ago. I got a hold of this. So he's speaking. It's subtitled in Russian, and I'm giving you the English. Let it speak for itself. I just let it speak for itself. You can draw your own conclusions, but this is pretty bad right here. You are the heirs of Great Russia. The Great Russia of saints and rulers. The great leaders like Peter I and Catherine II. That great empire. Such an enlightened and wonderful culture. A great segment of humanity. Never refuse this inheritance. You are the heirs of the great Mother Russia. Go ahead with this, and thank you. Thank you for your way of being And thank you for the way that you are Russians. Here comes poop from the Pope. As a Catholic, I'm embarrassed and a bit put off. Yeah, bud, I have a lot of Catholic friends, and I think they're put off as well. That great nation, everything's great. Continue being who you are. Peter the Great, Catherine. I told you guys tonight's stream was going to be very strange, and just a lot of crazy things have unfolded in the last 36 hours. Last thing I want to give you, I want to pay tribute tonight to 3 Ukrainian pilots who died in a training accident in Zhytomyr, where it was nowhere near the front line. Here's Ukraine. The name, come left to Vinnytsia, go directly north to Zhytomyr. It happened right here in this region. They were practicing, hit a couple of U-turn moves, and made a mistake. And these 3 guys have lost their lives right here. Unfortunately, one of those very famous, let's start in the upper right, Minka, and then Progazin. It's not Prigozhin, Progazin. And then over on the left is Pilshikov, the young fella. Juice is his name. He is, do you guys remember early in the war? The Ghosts of Kyiv. I actually did a whole stream about it. It really interesting stream way early. You have to go way back in the videos. But the Ghost of Kyiv, this guy was one of the ghosts. Juice. One of, if not the best Ukrainian pilot. They made a mistake. The Ghost of Kyiv. Yep. That's one of the ghosts right there. So Ukraine is in mourning for these 3 pilots. And listen, you know, it's sad anytime any soldier or human loses their life. Even Russian soldiers. I know they're invaders, but not all want to be there. And I'm not making excuses. Just reality. The loss of human life is sad, but these are very specialized losses, and I don't want to dumb down. Any loss of life is tragic, but there is I can't use that word. There's not a difference. There is a difference in the ramifications of the loss. I hope I said that politely. The ramifications here are, these are highly trained pilots, and probably Juice was their best, and it's hard to replace that. That's what I'm trying to say. So yes, Logic Clust, rest in peace, heroes. So guys, thank you. Appreciate all of you. That's where we're at tonight. I will check for you. And we started, everything was clear. Now we have, and remember what I was showing you, these are missile alerts in Zaporizhia and Donetsk. So that's where we're at. If anything unfolds that goes crazy, of course, we'll pop on here live at any time. We are working on a long stream, as we talked, a fundraiser. We'll go 8-12 hours, and I don't know, Zhenya wants to go 24, but we'll see what happens. And hey, we'll try to get the interview out of Estonia and all of that stuff. So we will see you on Wednesday night, if not before. Thank you for your support. Thank you for being here. Thank you for continuing to share, like, comment, do all those things. We appreciate every one of you guys. And here you go. Slava Ukraina. Geroyam slava.
Слава Україні!